Vince, probably one of the most horrifying reviews that we are going to bring everybody for the entire month of Horror Month, possibly for the last 8 years of Horror Month. This is going to be horrifying, so if you don't like scary stuff, you may not want to watch this.
Or you might want to get yourself a really stiff drink.
Do you know anybody who might have a delivery service, Vince, that we can get some?
Oh, wait. There's Dave. Dave Decay.
Oh, yeah. Let's call him.
He should be up. I mean, it's Horror Month.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Ringing.
Interweb bar. Dave Decay speaking.
Hey, Dave. It's Vince.
Who?
Vince. You know Vince from Box Office Maniacs?
No, never heard of you. What do you want?
All right, the Exorcist expert.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I get you.
Yeah, you call me all the time when you need stuff. Never mind. Anyway, I was just wondering, could you deliver us a little bit of alcohol? We're trying to do this review here, this movie review for Horror Month, and we need something for this one.
Well, it all depends on what movie are you reviewing.
Well, we're reviewing
Seed of Chucky.
That's my boy.
Oh, so you're gonna need the hard stuff.
Right, exactly.
Oh, I get you. No problem. We get that request all the time.
Yeah, the stuff in the back, way in the back.
Oh yeah, okay, no problem. We'll get it. I'll send it out in the bat mail right now.
Okay, you're the greatest, Dave.
Toothy, another Seed of Chucky request.
No problem, sugar. I'll go get it from the back.
You got it. Oh, look, Vince, it's here already.
It was about that full when I started watching the movie. You see where it is now. Yeah.
Well, I didn't have any when I watched the movie, but I really needed it. But I'm glad I got it now, so maybe I can forget this review after we get done with it.
Well, I got this much left, so I'm going to pour a little bit for myself now, just to get us through the review. I saved that much left for it.
All right, bottoms up.
There we go.
Yep. That's what I need to get through this video.
Oh boy.
Straight roll. Woo! Captain was calling.
Oh yeah. Needed that. Oh. Just the thought of Seed of Chucky.
All right, so let's get into this review, Vince. All right, Seed of Chucky. Here we go. Now they're introducing yet another doll, I suppose, that was actually born from another doll. So this is actually a thing that wasn't created really by voodoo. So yeah, it had so many really great possibilities. Just like my rum.
You know, I poured that Captain Rum in a little bit of Coke, but I think I'm going to just try it like this.
You're going to need it like that, Vince. Don't water this stuff down, because you're going to need it as strong as possible.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, so here we go. First of all, I don't even know where to begin in this movie on the amount of horrible, awful, just ridiculously stupid plot lines that are in this film. That's pretty much the entire movie.
My first impression of it was that the very beginning of the film needed to be a whole lot closer to the very, very end of the film.
Yeah, I don't even think this movie should have been made. Now, the thing about this film is, what's his name? Is it Don or Dan Mancini? Whatever his name is, the guy who wrote all these movies?
It's not actually Don Maniaci, I can tell you that, but I often get my name confused with his, and it's Don Mancini.
Yeah, he wrote all the Child's Play films, and he did a really good job on most of them. And then they got to this one, and he not only wrote it, he also directed it. And the only thing I can think of, Vince, is when he made this film, he was tired of the Chucky franchise and just wanted to kill it. And he basically wanted to do a Joel Schumacher Batman on this movie. And that's what he did.
I don't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get it from the beginning. I didn't get it.
It starts with Chucky's kid. His name is Glenn or Glinda. And that was a reference to an Ed Wood film, by the way, I'm assuming, which makes no sense, really. But anyway, not that this movie does. So he is in London. Somehow he ends up in London. And he's doing a puppet show, a ventriloquist show with a guy. So the puppet is British for whatever stupid reason. That, right away, that doesn't make any sense, but yeah.
And what's his name at the beginning of it? It's not Glenn, and it's not Glinda. What's his name?
Who the hell are you?
Shitface.
Oh, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't, because it didn't matter because it lasted for all about 10 minutes until they decided to go on the transgender trip.
I mean, just the way it was made, it was, to all the transgender people out there, I think it was pretty much a slap in the face, just an insult to everybody out there, just because of it just being what it was. And I'm not even going to get into that part of the film, because I don't want to talk about it, but the one thing I got to ask you this, Vince, if he did not have either male or female parts, because he's trying to figure out if he was male or female, because he doesn't know, how did he pee?
Exactly. And he's doing it all the way through the film.
Hey, you're pissing your pants.
And that makes no sense. It makes no sense of why he's peeing himself. I was like, that's just so stupid. Why is he peeing himself every 5 minutes in this movie?
It just didn't make any sense. I mean, at first when they show Chucky kill somebody in front of him, then he's like, and he does it then. Okay, maybe that makes a little bit of sense, but throughout the entire film.
Well, and then we have the bride of Chucky, Tiffany, and she was all burnt and disgusting at the end of the bride of Chucky. Here, she's perfectly fine. No explanation, no reasoning behind it. And then we got Chucky, and his face is still all stitched together. And they're making a Chucky film in this movie with the actual Chucky dolls, which, for whatever reason, they're dolls again. They're not, again, they don't explain that. They're just dolls until they do a ritual and bring him back to being Chuck. None of this makes any sense. It's the absolute worst piece of crap I have ever seen.
Well, I think Tiffany ended up looking like that because that's exactly what they did. They made it back into the dolls. I guess they were supposed to have somehow gotten a hold of Chucky and Tiffany from the way it ended in Bride of Chucky. You know, Chucky was down inside, shot to death next to his grave, and then Tiffany was burnt to a crisp. So did they get those actual dolls, and now they're actually, they turned them into the actual dolls for the film? Stupid. It was just stupid. It was, and because they put them up as the actual dolls, that's what I'm getting at, is that the rum is getting to me.
Oh, okay. I need some more. Is what you're saying. Let me just go take the cap off of this.
Yeah. Get some more rum there, Dave.
I'm good to go now, Vince.
Anyway, that's what they did with Tiffany. Was they took her and they rebuilt her so that she was brand new again.
Yeah, but they didn't show that. So they didn't show any of that.
I guess that's what you have to assume that they did. But they also did it for Chucky because now he looks the worst that he's ever looked.
Kevin Yeager, at this point, stopped working on the movie. So whoever was doing these effects, it wasn't him. So that's why it's so terrible.
And there is still some puppetry done in this film. There is still, it hadn't gone completely CGI or anything like that. They look terrible. They looked awful. I mean, Chucky doesn't look like he's stitched anymore. It looks like that's part of his face.
Now, here comes something else that I thought, out of all the stupid stuff in the movie, this was the dumbest. The absolute stupidest, dumbest, idiotic, horrible, just ridiculously bad, I can't think of any other words, stuff in this film is the whole made in Japan thing. I mean, okay, Vince, Chucky never had that on him throughout any of the films, and if this doll was born out of Tiffany, why would he have that stamped on him? Because he's not made in Japan. He was birthed out of Tiffany, who doesn't have that, and Chucky never had it. It makes no sense.
I know. They show it on Chucky's hand. They don't show it on Tiffany's. They show it on Chucky's.
So he thinks he's Japanese, and they has this whole thinks he's a samurai, Japanese samurai through the whole film, and it's just, oh my God, so bad.
Yeah, a Japanese samurai with an English-speaking voice in this weird Frankenstein kind of looking fate. It just didn't make any damn sense, no matter what. And it didn't matter if there was, like you said, I mean, there really didn't matter if it was a transgender or anything, because it made no damn sense whatsoever.
And speaking of him, he was just hideous. And they say how bad he looks, but I think it's because of his color. He had sort of a weird greenish, like brown, I don't even know what color he was, but it looked like puke. And just looking at him was terrible. It was the worst looking thing I've ever seen. He's horrible to look at.
Well, the one thing they also did in this film was try to do an homage to the old Universal monsters. Well, I think they're actually trying to say that he is kind of a Frankenstein because of this weird how he was born. It just doesn't make any damn sense. None of it.
No, none of it. And they did a reality thing too, and I hated that. I hated that Jennifer Tilly played herself in this movie. I thought that was terrible. I thought it was stupid that, they keep saying, she's overweight and she's hiding candy bars places that she can eat. And apparently there's a rapper in the film called Redman, and he must have been popular back then, and I seem to barely remember him. I don't think he's a thing now because I don't know who he is. So none of that made any sense, and he was trying to make a movie, and there was just nothing good in this movie. I mean, nothing good.
Well, you speak of the reality part of it, and I don't mind that when they do that in films, but in this one, it's just done terribly. And because by this time, when this movie came out, Scream had already been out. Also, Wes Craven's New Nightmare had been out, and they did the same thing. And this one is just terrible. It's just terrible. I don't mind that they did put Jennifer Tilly in it. I don't mind that they put Redman in it, and put some kind of reality to it. I didn't mind that they did it. They just did it terribly.
And then you get the whole thing with, because this is an unrated version of it. Thank God.
That rum's getting to you, Dave.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of warm over here, Vince. It's not from this movie either. But there's a scene in the movie where Chucky basically impregnates Jennifer Tilly.
What the hell is going on in here?
She came on to me.
Why that happened? No idea. Why they did it? No idea. Why she got pregnant? No idea. That's this film. I have no idea why it was made.
And what's so even more stupid about that is they have Chucky playing with himself to get the stuff to make her pregnant, and all of a sudden they come up with this voodoo rule, this brand new voodoo rule.
I don't think I could take 9 months of this shit.
Silly Chucky. It's a voodoo pregnancy. It's accelerated.
Getting somebody pregnant with voodoo, it goes a lot faster. It accelerates the pregnancy. Oh my God, really?
Maybe if I drink more of this movie will accelerate. Hang on.
Maybe this review will accelerate.
Some movies, some bad films, I'll come out and say, oh, hey, at least this happened. That didn't happen in this movie. Nothing happened in this movie. It was just miserable. It was horrendous. It was unwatchable. And about 10 minutes in the movie, I wanted to turn it off. I did not want to watch the rest of it. But I was like, okay, well, I'm going to watch it to review it. And I wish now I wouldn't have. Because by the end of the film, the very ending of the movie makes no sense. The way the movie ends makes no sense.
if you remember my Child's Play 3 review, I said, I wasn't crazy about the way it deviated from the story. It got too weird, and I wasn't crazy about that one. And so far, out of the 4 films that we had watched, Child's Play 1, 2, 3, and then 4. 3 was my least No. This one won. This one takes the cake. This one is the worst Chucky film ever. Ever, ever, ever.
I think it's just one of the worst movies, period. It doesn't even have to have Chucky in it. It's that bad. It's literally almost unwatchable, is what the movie is. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, Vince, I'm going to have to give this film, Seed of Chucky, a 1 out of 5.
Oh, you're being gracious.
Well, we don't have anything lower that I know of.
Can we go negative?
You can try, but I don't think we have a negative. And then I have to come up with an entirely new scale, so no, we don't have a negative.
All right. Well, if we can't go -1, then I will have to also agree. Seed of Chucky gets a 1 out of 5.
So now comes the interesting part. There are extras on here, and I really want to know if they can explain exactly what happened to this film. I really want to know this. I really, really want to know what happened to this god-awful movie.
Okay, so this is different. I've never had a review where I have a bunch of birds chirping in it. So, I filmed this outdoors, so birds chirping.
All right, let's get into, I guess, the commentary here first. First of all, I didn't listen to all this commentary because I could not stand this movie, and I couldn't stand watching this film a second time, even with the commentary. With that said, I watched about 30 minutes of the movie with the commentary, and the commentary wasn't terrible. It wasn't that terrible. He did talk about how he, had written the script many years before they actually made the movie, and then all of a sudden they were ready to make the movie, and he had to hurry up and get it done as fast as he possibly could. So he went to a foreign country, and he had to bring all the Chucky dolls and everything with him, and these people in this other country never saw anything like that, and here's all these cables running, and all these people trying to create these dolls, and they're just standing around looking. They're like, is this the stuff we're going to have to deal with through this whole movie? Unfortunately, yeah, and we had too, watching it. And the guy that actually created the dolls on here was on here too in the commentary, and the commentary is by Don Mancini, the guy who wrote and directed this horrendous movie. There was really no point where he just said, man, this is terrible. This is a horrible film. He never said that. I mean, he kept saying, oh, well, this is a really funny scene. Oh, this is really hilarious. Wait until you get to this scene. Oh, this is just funny. And it's like, okay, well, maybe something that's funny to one person is not really that funny to anybody else on the planet, Don Mancini. And the guy who created the Chucky doll and the Tiffany and Glenn that's on here, Glenn or Glinda, he kept saying that Glenn looked like Bambi. That he was trying to get Glenn to look like Bambi. And I'm like, no, Glenn, I don't think you really look like Bambi in this movie. Not really, no. So again, if you're interested in the commentary here, it's worth listening to, I guess, if you can make it through the whole film. It's not terrible. He does give some insights into how they filmed stuff and what things were going on in the film, and still, it didn't make the movie any better.
So anyway, the second commentary on this disc is a commentary between Jennifer Tilly, who plays Tiffany in the movie, as well as Don Mancini, who is the writer and creator of Chucky. I really, really had a hard time actually trying to watch this or listen to this commentary, because sitting there watching a movie that I don't like, I can't stand, and I thought was terrible, is really, really tough to sit there and listen to a commentary while you're watching this movie. I mean, it's that bad that you can't you can't even pay attention to the commentary because you're seeing the movie in front of you, and the movie's just terrible. It's just horrendously bad. So it took me about 3 times to actually sit down and watch this thing or listen to it. And I got about 30 minutes into it and I couldn't take any more, and I finally shut it off. I couldn't go any farther. But what I got out of it was some interesting little things. Not much, but some. And I say not much because in this commentary, as opposed to the commentary for Bride of Chucky, where Jennifer Tilly and Don Mancini were on that one, this commentary is without Brad Dourif, for one thing. And for the second thing, I think it's because Don Mancini actually directed this film, whereas Ronnie Yu directed Bride of Chucky. So when you're sitting here listening to this, I mean, Don Mancini acts like this is his golden child of the Chucky series. Like, this is the Gone with the Wind. I mean, his epic saga, his Braveheart, the way he talks about it. But, of course, because he's the director, but, I mean, some of the things that you really wanted to know, he doesn't really talk about. But there was one that he did come up with, and it's the fact that you hear a lot of English-speaking people in the movie. All these people from, like, England. And the reason why is because I guess they had some sort of contract. They were under some sort of weird contract that, and they actually had this for Bride of Chucky too, but I think with Bride of Chucky it was for Canada. So they filmed a lot of that in Canada. This movie they filmed in Romania, but it was filmed in Romania and it has English actors, and they were under contract to use English actors for a lot of the film. So that's why when you see right in the beginning, you see, you know, Glenn, and he's there with this British actor, and you hear Glenn, and even Glenn is played by Billy Boyd, who was in Lord of the Rings as one of the hobbits. So that's why Glenn ends up with this British voice. And all the other actors that they have, especially in the beginning, they're all English. And that's why, because they were under contract to use English actors for some odd reason. The other thing about them filming in Romania was this was the smallest budget that any Chucky movie had at that point. They weren't given a whole lot of money, and they also weren't given a whole lot of time to film this movie. They had to rush to get it done. So, to me, that, you know, that's no excuse. They could have. I've seen movies that with very limited time and very limited budget, and they come out fantastically. So to me, that's no excuse for it. It's no reason for the way this movie turned out. But this time around, I will say this. It's more of a conversation between these two, more than it is a commentary. I mean, they are watching the film, and they do talk about the movie, but at the same time, there's parts in it where Jennifer Tilly will go off into something like, oh, remember when we got so-and-so to do that? And then he had to leave because he had something to do at home and blah, blah, blah. And they just go into this little conversation. Oh, yeah, I remember that, blah, blah, blah. Stuff you don't really care about. But when they do talk about the movie, they do talk about the movie. So you do have that. But overall, it's kind of hard for me to say that this commentary was altogether terrible. But it's hard to say that it was all that great either. And the fact that I only listened to about 30 minutes of it, which is all I could stand, because of the movie. Not because of the commentary, but because of the movie. Okay, so the next extra we have on here is called /scene. You know, original name. And all it means is that this was a deleted scene from the movie. One deleted scene. That's all we got from this. And I guess that's a good thing. Because I don't know if I could take much more watching this film. But Okay, so the slash scene. And actually, this scene wasn't too bad for what it was, but I can see why they took it out. It also comes with a commentary. You can watch it with the commentary or without the commentary. If you watch it without the commentary, it's called a Debby Carrington scene. And Debby Carrington is this little person, actress, that was actually in Bride of Chucky. She played the doll. So, like Ed Gale plays Chucky in the film with the, the mask and the whole. Whenever they show the real person in the suit walking around, that's what Debby Carrington does, just like Ed Gale did. She comes in playing herself, and she comes into this room, and they're getting her makeup done and getting ready to go out there and play Tiffany. So she's got the wedding dress and the whole thing. They're doing her makeup, and she's kind of like this diva about the whole thing. Like, oh, do you have to do this now, or do you have to do, and she's this real diva about doing this part. This is going to be her breakout role or whatever. And all the while, Tiffany is in the real Tiffany doll. The real doll is supposed to be sitting there watching her getting all done up and everything, and just cringing because this person's playing her in this movie within a movie. Now, with the commentary on here, it's actually pretty interesting because they actually do talk about the scene, and it's a commentary between Don Mancini and Debby Carrington. So she comes in for this one scene to do a commentary, but it actually was pretty good. It was actually a pretty good, entertaining commentary. It probably would have been interesting to actually have her in the actual commentary somewhere.
Alright, so this extra is called Here's Chucky, and it's just what it sounds like. This is a horrible, horrible fake interview with Chucky. Just absolutely terrible. And it even gets worse because they go into like fake movies. He's like, oh, well, I tried out for other films. Here's the movie clip. And he's talking about like Scarface. He's standing there like, say hello to my little friend. Stuff like that. And it's just horrendous. It's horrendous. The best part of this is when it was over. The ending. It was that horrendous. It's about 2 minutes long, and that's way too long. 2 minutes is way too long for this. It should have been over before it started. Actually, it shouldn't even existed. It's that bad.
Next up is Family Holiday Slideshow. What can I say about this? This is a mess. I mean, I understand what they were trying to do with this. It's kind of like a little promotional thing or press kit kind of thing. It's all just pictures taken around different locations. Mount Rushmore is even in it. I mean, it's just, all over the place. New York, everywhere. And they're taking pictures, and all the while in the pictures, Chucky is killing people when he's not supposed to be. And it's a mess. It's just worthless and stupid.
The next extra is called Conceiving the Seed of Chucky. And this is a bunch of interviews with the actors and whatnot. And the funniest part here is Redman. Redman gets on there, who's in the film, and he's like, oh man, I love Chucky. I loved all the Chucky movies. I watched all the Chucky movies. And now I get to go down in history as being in a Chucky film. It's going to be so great. I was like, yeah, Redman, you're going down in history all right. Probably not for what you're wanting to, but you're going down in history all right. And they're talking about how this is supposed to be a parody of like a domestic drama, like Kramer versus Kramer, and stuff like that. And I'm like, is that what they really thought they were making here? Was Kramer versus Kramer? No. Guys, no. Just no. But they do show a little bit of the making of the film on here, and the whole thing is probably around 18 minutes.
Okay, so the next extra on here is called Tilly on the Tonight Show. Okay, so when this first came up on the menu, I thought, okay, well, they're probably going to show a portion of the Tonight Show, where she was on the Tonight Show promoting Seed of Chucky. It's not that at all. It's not an interview with her. It's nothing like you would think it is. It's actually a little skit she did for the Tonight Show. And yes, it was filmed while they were filming in Romania and filming Seed of Chucky. So she's talking about her experience in Romania as she's writing this little love letter to Jay Leno, who was the host of the Tonight Show at that time. It's full of bad little jokes and bad little puns, and I don't know. It's kind of cutesy for what it is, but altogether it was pretty lame.
So the next extra is called Fusion, something like that. I don't even care. Up close with Seed of Chucky, and here is a talk show where they're on there talking about Seed of Chucky, and it's sort of like almost like an Entertainment Tonight or something. I don't even know if it's a real show. I mean, I couldn't tell if it's a fake show. I think it might have been a real show at one time. I don't even know. Doesn't even really matter. But these two people come on, they're like, oh, brand new Seed of Chucky. Let's interview Chucky and Tiffany. And they're sitting there interviewing Chucky and Tiffany, and it's stupid. The whole thing's stupid. The interview's stupid. The entire thing is just stupid.
The next extra on this disc is called Storyboard Comparison. This is where they take some of the scenes from Seed of Chucky and compare it to the storyboards that they did when they were filming the movie. And the storyboards are like comic book panels almost. They show what the scene is going to look like, or a vision of what the scene may look like. So they do 4 scenes from Seed of Chucky, starting with the first scene is the nightmare sequence, they call it, where the little girl is ripping open her present, and it's one of the dolls, and you don't know which doll it is yet. And it goes through that whole scene of her opening it up and then looking at it just awfully, and it's basically pretty much the beginning of the film. So the real issue I have with this storyboard thing is that I don't mind watching the comparison and to see what it looked like from the storyboards to the screen to what they actually filmed. It's kind of interesting to find that out, but the problem is this movie's terrible. So watching what they did in a storyboard and watching what they did on film doesn't make much difference, and there isn't any difference. There's 4 scenes in here, and none of them look any different. There's nothing different from what they did on the storyboard to what they actually put on film, and that's in the movie. Nothing different. Overall, I guess it's kind of interesting because you're watching the storyboard and seeing what happens with the storyboard and what they put into the film, but because the film is so bad, it's not interesting at all. It's just dumb and lame and terrible. And another terrible extra.
I can't think of a thing to say. Fuck it.
So before we go, I want to point out something. David and I have done several franchises lately. I mean, last year we did the Saw franchise. The year before that we did the Scream franchise. The year before that we did the Halloween franchise. Actually, 2 years before that we did the Halloween franchise. And several years back we did the Friday the 13th films. And in watching all of these horror movies and all the other horror movies we've ever seen in franchises, there's always at least 1 or 2 that we're kind of like, or maybe David liked it and I didn't, or maybe I liked it and David didn't. But out of all the franchises we've ever watched together, and all the franchises that we've reviewed so far, there hasn't ever been one film that the both of us absolutely hated. And that was Seed of Chucky. That was this franchise of this movie, Seed of Chucky. It was terrible. It's a terrible film. And, actually, if we were doing an archive or bury it, guess what this would get? So there you have it. There's the whole review, and all I can say right now is be sure and keep tuning in because we got 2 more Chucky films on the way. We've got Curse of Chucky, which is the 6th film in this franchise, and then we have The Cult of Chucky, the 7th film that came out earlier this month. So stick around with us. Keep subscribing, keep liking us, keep writing your feedback and your comments. We enjoy that so much. Pay attention to the little horror bell up there so you know when we post more horrifying horror videos for Horror Month. And just stick around with us, because we've got 2 more Chucky films to go, and a lot more other horrible, horrifying horror movies coming at your way. At your way? Well, you know what I mean. Coming your way soon.